And welcome to a mock draft laboratory. I'm your host, Jason, and with me, as always, are two of the best in the business. I'm going to start below me with the one, the only Rich, the Frito Bandito. How you doing this evening, Rich?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Ready to do some mock draft, man. Had some live drafts this weekend, and just to build up just for this right here, and then next week is go time.
Yeah, your live family drafts are definitely an audition for the mock draft laboratory. You gotta practice with real drafts to get to the mock draft. I know how this works. George, I know
What's
you're
going
back there
on?
trying to. I know you're trying to fill leagues and get the party started, but you got to say hi to the people, George. Say hi to the
A-
people.
Absolutely, people. What is going on? Super excited to be here. It is mock draft laboratory time. We are going to be pulling up some mocks here. We're going to be talking about them. We got a single quarterback half PPR. We have a super flex and another super flex full PPR leagues. So we're super excited. Getting ready to get these things going. I'm getting ready to start filling them, sending them out on the Sleeper app, and get people in there so we can get rolling.
You know, the best part of a 3 game preseason is this week in between the preseason and the regular season that gives us all us fantasy degenerates time to get one or two more drafts fit in. You know, I tried to pare down leagues this year and I did a pretty good job, but got offered another league just recently. Said, heck yeah. When does it draft? It drafts next Sunday. I'm in. Let's go for it, man. It's great.
50
Um,
bucks, I'm in. Absolutely.
if $50, yeah, you know, I'll spend $50 at breakfast. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I do spend 50
You
bucks
you
at
will.
breakfast. I
Yeah,
got a family
absolutely.
of four. I got a family of four. That's not even a brag anymore. That's just the facts of life. So, um, we're gonna get started here in a minute. I'm gonna share my screen for George. But I do want to mention all the cool things we've got going on here at Toilets to Titles. We've got Mock Draft Laboratory one more week for sure. We've got our title show on Tuesday. We've got Joe's Corner on Wednesday. You know, we did it. We added it up. It's going to be 17 shows during the regular season during the week. We've got team shows in the morning, fantasy shows at night. We're even going to have an after-hour show. I believe, Rich, you're going to be on the after-hour show. And that's not to mention Sunday mornings from 10:30 to 12:30. We're going to be taking start-sit questions from you guys live on the air, and that'll allow you to call in or write in or whatever, write on live on the air and ask us your questions. We'll answer them for you right up until kickoff. On top of that, if you are a Patreon, which I think we're going to be bringing on Coach here, he can talk about the Patreon a little bit, but it's patreon.com/toilets titles. We have all kinds of giveaways we're going to be doing. We're going to have our famous waiver wire show again. It's going to be a quick show, but it's also a PDF you're going to get right after um, right after Monday Night Football airs. Like, you're going to get the information from the Toilets Title crowd. That way you can set your waivers and beat the crowds for the rest of the leagues and all the other guys. So, Coach, I'm going to bring you on here, and you can talk about Patreon some more and whatever you want to talk about.
Hell yeah, I just came in. I had some extra time this evening. My son is sleeping over a friend's house. My wife's out for a little bit. So usually I'm on the stream Tuesday nights, but I knew you guys were going to be busy. And I did want to mention, I see Elijah in here. Said, I love you, Dad. That's like, that's incredible. So that's it's good to see. I'm assuming your son in here.
Yeah, it's he pops in and says hi. He has taken over a couple of episodes in the chat, which he loves to do, but his mom got on him a little bit, so now it's just a quick hi and I love you, and then he's off back to playing Roblox.
Yeah. Me and my kids, we did we love making a restaurant Roblox. So
Yeah. We could do a show on that. We'll do that at some point.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, Patreon, man, patreon.com/toilets to titles. Let me pull it on. So it's I know tomorrow night, if you're signed up for our Patreon as low as $1.50 a month, you get entered. So there's 5 tiers, the lowest tier being $1.50 a month. And I think the top tier, like the baller tier, is $20 a month. And in the baller tier, you get like, we'll break down your league on a show. Like we'll record a show breaking down your league, and then there's something in between from the $1.50 to the $20. It's $3, $5, $10. And essentially you go to patreon.com/toilets titles. You'll see what's included. But tomorrow on air, we are going to randomize. We're going to put everybody in Patreon depending on your tier. So if you're tier 1, you get 1 entry. If you're tier 5, you get 5 entries. We're going to spin a wheel. You know, Justin loves that wheel. And we're going to give out a copy of Madden 24. And then we are going to remove who won. So all of that person's entries, if it's someone with 2 or 3, depending on how many tiers, they're going to be removed completely. And then we're going to be giving away a 47 brand hat, and they're pretty slick. Like, so you're going to be able to go online, and we really didn't put any regulations on it. So you can like go on 47, or we'll probably recommend you go to Homage or Fanatics rather. I'm sorry, because that's an affiliate of ours. Pick one out, and whatever one you want, we're going to get it for you. So I know in season we're going to be doing. We're coming up with something wild. Basically, we're making some money from the Patreon, but we want to put it all back towards our Patreons because we want to continue to grow this thing. So we're not pocketing anything. We are trying to, we want to build a community. It's community first. So essentially, we're trying to lure you to us because by bringing you all into our Patreon, it's kind of creating a nice little community. We have over like 230 people in the Gilded chat. If you want to get in there, toiletstitles@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on the Twitter at Coach Sheps. And so essentially all this money is going to go back into doing more giveaways, mini helmets, autographed cards. And we're just going to kind of give it back to our Patreons and hopefully bring in a lot more Patreons by doing that. And, just continue to grow that way.
Well, and look, we've got another one of our compatriots, Nino, shouting out the coach for joining us on a Monday night. You know, you're a night too early to be on the channel, but we love having you on pretty much anytime you can be on one of our shows. Look, if you want to wake up Sunday morning and do start sit with us,
I might.
Jason coaches the Toilets to Titles Don. He is welcome on any show at any time. Open invitation. It's his house. We're just living in the T2T mansion. He makes sure the lights stay on, the bills are paid. We all have food in the fridge. So, Coach, you're welcome at any time. Don't listen to Jason. You're not a day early.
It's funny. I've been talking with these 3 gentlemen about some artwork for the Title Time show. Have you guys talked about Title Time at all on here? By the way,
we did a little bit. We did at the intro just a little bit.
Cool.
Told them that 10:30 to 12:30 every Sunday.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing Title Time. It's a start sit show, and I keep saying start in the bad word by accident, and I'm trying my darndest, but you say it too fast and you catch yourself.
It's hard, man. I just did a show this week. I don't want to hijack this show anymore, so let's get into some draft after this. But I did a show. I'm breaking down Army this season. I'm covering Army. And they're playing the University of Louisiana Monroe. And I had to say the name of that team, that college, multiple times throughout the show. And it was so difficult getting those 3 words out. It didn't sound like a curse word, but it just like my tongue was tied every single time I said it.
Well, when we did the show before before the rebrand, when we did Sunday last year, actually 2 years ago, Devin Singletary is the hardest one to say quickly. And he quickly got a nickname, the Devil, because every time I went to say Devin Singletary, it came out as Devil Singletary.
Right.
So we just nicknamed him the Devil, and we kept moving on with it. You just whatever is the easiest to say, as long as the people listening know what you're talking about.
Works. It works.
All right, so we are now into the first draft. I took the first pick. I haven't had the first pick in any of my leagues all season. I haven't had the chance to taste a little bit of that Justin Jefferson love. So I jumped in and grabbed Justin Jefferson. And Tony the Tiger looks like grabbed Jamar Chase. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and pop down. This is my draft board. So I'm going to pop this down so people can see what's actually going on. Let me come back over here. All right. So far, pretty chalk. Got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler.
Bijan Robinson.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Bijan. My bad. Hey, so
I posted this question early in the offseason, and everyone made me feel like I was crazy. I'm going to laugh when Tony Pollard outscores Saquon Barkley this year. I'm going to do it because it's going to happen.
You know, there's been a lot of talk about Tony Pollard being a top 2 guy this year. You know, people might call you a homer because you're a Cowboys fan,
Right.
but I can see it happening. He was top 8 last year. Zeke stole a bunch of carries. Who else is, you know better than anybody else, Coach? Who else is there?
It's Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, but neither of those guys are going to be guys that they're going to be package guys. Well, really, Deuce will be a package guy. Rico will be I'm going to spell Pollard when he's tired, when he taps his helmet. So,
Hey, Coach, what about Malik Jackson? Is
Malik Davis? I think Malik
Davis, there you
Davis.
go.
I think he might get cut. I'm uncertain right now, but it's Dowdle's the 2. As far as I'm concerned. But Pollard, he's on a 1-year deal, and I try to keep it unbiased. Like I try to, and especially doing what we do. But he's got the juice, limited mileage on his legs from college and the NFL. And last year he looked it wasn't just like a few big plays where you saw the light. Like he looked electric. He went down in that San Francisco game, and that changed everything. Like we had a shot until Pollard left. That says a lot.
Well, I think it was Justin. I don't think you agree with this, but I think it was Justin that said last year that Pollard is a bigger weapon than CeeDee Lamb. Now,
hard to say,
when you say Swiss Army knife, maybe, right? Like he's a guy that'll catch out of the backfield and he can also rush the ball. So,
well, Lamb is also a guy who's a yak guy. So I think they're similar. I think they're similar because you get the ball to Lamb in space. We're going to see a lot more of what Lamb's capable this year with Cooks out there, because when he had Cooper next to him, he wasn't yet developed professional. Now he's a professional, and he's got another guy who can be a 1 alongside of him and Brandon Cooks that'll take some attention away from him. So I'm excited to see. I'm interested seeing Stephon Diggs go ahead of A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb. That intrigues me. I like Diggs, but I like those 3 young guns better. I don't know if it's recency bias or what. But what do you guys think?
I would probably take Lamb and Brown over Diggs. I've been saying that a lot when we do these mock draft shows, and it's more of they're just more exciting to watch. It's probably not Diggs' fault. Like he's been good everywhere he's gone. He's been good every season. But you just think about when you think about the 3 of them, there's more buzz, there's more electricity. They're just more entertaining to me to watch. And the tough part is like Diggs is the only guy in town where like Brown's got weapons around him. So, you could see a world in which he's not as high up because he's got, Smith and Goddard to contend with. And even Lamb with Cooks, there's something there. Right. Gabe Davis doesn't scare me for targets, so I understand the Diggs thing. It's when I'm drafting, it's not as exciting.
Right. No, yeah, I'm with you. And I feel like A.J. Brown last year was the first year he played a full season. So he's played over 10 every year, but he's always kind of got like a little minor muscle tissue injury going on. So that worries me a little bit when I pick him.
What is your guys' take on I know we had conversations about this as far as like Bijan going where he's been going. Now, I've always said outside of the top 4, Bijan would be my number 1 pick, and it was in this case in this draft too. Is anybody different as far as him going before Eckler and Barkley?
I think it's fair. I like Chubb. I like Nick Chubb a lot. Eckler, they're all, I feel like Eckler and Barkley, I think Eckler is a little more dangerous due to his age, the new system, than those guys, but he has the ceiling. I just feel like Bijan, being a rookie, high draft capital, he might not score as much as an Eckler. He might not score as much as a Barkley, which I'd be surprised if he doesn't. But I think the floor is super safe because rookie, high draft capital, and that team's going to need – they need a hero. And essentially he's going to be that,
Yeah, I agree. I think going into the season, initially I had Chubb as my number 2 running back, but as the offseason kept on going into the preseason, getting closer, Bijan slowly jumped up ahead of him. I like Chubb a lot, but just you said it perfectly. I just think Bijan just being in the situation he is and stuff, and new green, I mean, he's going to have all the opportunity that is going to be given to him.
Right.
You know what I can tell you I definitely missed from early offseason is Nick Chubb going in the 3rd round. Do you guys remember that? When we started doing mock drafts in fantasy, best ball, that kind of stuff. Man, Nick Chubb at the start of this offseason was going in the 3rd round, and all of a sudden he's back in the 1st round where honestly I think he belongs. We'd always talked he'd been undervalued. It's so disappointing now that we're into the season, though, that Nick Chubb's where he should be and not where we used to be able to get him.
It is disappointing.
So
you know, I was just going to say, imagine being somebody who shipped him in Dynasty in June when his value was low.
Yeah. Tough, man. Let's talk about this 2nd round a little bit. You know, we had Derrick Henry, then we had Brown, and then we had Brown, and then we had Jacobs. Jacobs slipping into the 2nd. Man, that's great value. You got Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Tony Pollard finally goes. You got Eckerd and Pollard on the same team. Jonathan Taylor, Chris Olave, Najee Harris. Najee Harris going early. That's a surprise to me. Jalen Waddle. And then I came back and took Mixon and Gibbs. And I will touch briefly on the Mixon and Gibbs thought. I think Mixon is about as safe a running back, barring injury, as you can get in the draft. He's another guy that's got nobody behind him. He caught a lot of balls last year, had a lot of targets. I see him as a super safe running back. And then I went and paired him with a guy like Gibbs, who we don't know how he's going to be in the NFL, but what we do know is he's got super high upside. He's what Detroit wanted out of DeAndre Swift. So I paired a safe running back and what I find is an upside, not necessarily safe running back. So I have a floor and a ceiling. What do you guys think?
I like it. I like it. And I'm going to tell you one of the best team names. My son's playing fantasy with some friends this year, and I heard this team name, and I had to give it to him. Never going to Gibbs you up. so he got Rick rolled. So, that's dumb, but I thought it was funny.
I like it.
But I like your strategy, Jason. I think that's a strong one.
So hey, Rich, Rich, I just want to let you know. Sorry, Jason, didn't mean to cut you off. Rich, want to let you know I started your draft that you're in.
Yep,
I know you're number 12, but I just want to let you know we have begun.
Yeah, I got it pulled up.
Okay, hey, fellas, my daughter's just about to get dropped off, but I'm glad I was able to stop in this evening. Good luck mocking, all right, guys?
All right, Coach. Appreciate you.
Later.
Thanks for joining, Coach. Good night.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jason. So,
yes, sir.
You initially were saying how Jacobs slipping in the 2nd round. Have you guys seen Jacobs get drafted in the 1st round anywhere that you guys been seeing?
Not lately, but a month ago, yes, back into the 1st. Now it's, I was seeing it a while back before it became an extended absence, right?
Yeah.
But now it's definitely in the 2nd. And I think 2nd's a fair value, but if you can start with a Cooper Kupp and end up with somebody like Josh Jacobs, who again is the last year of his deal, he's not going to play there again, and they're going to run him like they did last year. They're going to treat him just like they did last year. There's no incentive for them to rest him or let him, So I see Josh Jacobs doing just as well this year, again, barring injury, as last year. So
yeah, no, I agree. I've been seeing with everything that was going on, you were getting him at the tail end of 2nd and maybe even the beginning of the 3rd and everything. And now that he's came back this past week, we're starting seeing him slip up where
creep back up. Yeah.
I'd be fine taking him at the turn at 12, 13 turn.
So the 3rd round was Gibbs, Patrick Mahomes, Calvin Ridley, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Mark Andrews, Ramondre Stevenson, T. Higgins, Travis Etienne, Damian Pierce, and I can't read that. Give me 2 seconds. And Aaron Jones. Sorry, I can't read number 12 on my screen. Not a bad round there. That's where the 3 top quarterbacks tend to go. So that's pretty normal. I think Mark Andrews in the 3rd round is a steal. One of the better tight ends available. and I am on the clock, Rich. So anything you want to say while I look for some players?
No, I mean, we do have to. I'm sure you said at the beginning. This is a single QB on this draft right here. So you're starting to see some balanced teams. I mean, yeah, you're seeing some QBs going in the third round, but as far as the first 2 rounds, look, you got either 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and they're kind of. I mean, they're safe all the way aboard. I mean, it's about an average draft as you're going to see in a startup redraft like that. I do like the. I can't even see the. Is that Hill and Olave? I love that pairing with the receivers.
Yeah, they get so that's M. Boltzer 25. He's got Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, Josh Allen, and then he took Terry McLaurin in the 4th round at 4-9.
All right, guys. So I just went Christian Watson, who I thought was the best wide receiver left on the board, and then back that up with Darren Waller, who I will take in the 5th round anytime I can get my hands on him.
Now I got a question. Are we allowed to use profanity on the show? Because you said back that up, and I really wanted to add a word to that.
That's a question you should have asked Coach while he was on here. I don't get to make those decisions.
I was a little busy while Coach was on here. Unfortunately, I did not get to interact with Coach as much as I like to. But at this time, what I am going to do is I'm going to switch this over to draft number 2. So, Rich, if you could do me a favor, if you could go onto your screen and drop down your player selection here, so that is hidden on the screen. There you go. So this draft is the Superflex one. So it's natural you see a lot of quarterbacks going early. What really stood out to me on this one is actually Patrick Mahomes falling to number 3, and Creasy 19 took Josh Allen 101. Razafarian took Jalen Hurts at 1-2, which I don't mind taking Jalen Hurts over Pat Mahomes. I don't think I'm taking Josh Allen over Pat Mahomes. And Pat Mahomes falling to number 3 to Lyrical Style. Outside of that, Jason, Rich, do you guys see anything that kind of stands out to you so far?
Well, so one thing I'll mention, George, and I'm not sure how we fix this, but I can only see the top 10 picks. I can't see 11 and 12 on the screen.
Okay, so 11 was Travis Kelce and 12 was to Rich with Justin Herbert. And I don't know how to fix it either because I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, hold on, I'm working on it.
I don't see anything. And Rich, you're gonna be. Oh, never mind. You're on the other side. I don't see anything that stands out. I mean, maybe Burrow going ahead of Jackson. I understand it. I'm still into a running quarterback in this format. After Mahomes, I probably go Jefferson. After the big 3, but I can understand why you wouldn't.
Yeah, I go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
I was real shocked at, obviously being a super flex, that Herbert and Trevor Lawrence fell to me at 12. 13 swing. I mean, usually you would see both of those, and maybe not all cases and everything, but I like to think guys keep on seeing them in the top 10 picks.
Yeah, it would be hard for me in a super flex not to start out with such a pretty lineup, and I'm emphasizing pretty here with Herbert and Lawrence. If you don't name this team something to do with hair, it's just a missed opportunity.
Hair Bear and I don't know. I get you. I got you.
You know what, Rich? Let us write your name for you. We got you.
T-Law and the Hair Bear. Something like that.
It's a beautiful start. I will say that with the long, flowing locks.
So later on in the draft, you have to complete the quarterback trio, and it's mandatory. You reach 2 rounds to get Jimmy Garoppolo. And then you can say you have the prettiest set of quarterbacks in the league.
George has had a crush on Jimmy Garoppolo for a good long time.
Jimmy Garoppolo's a good-looking dude. That's all I'm saying. I'm comfortable in my manhood to say this person is a good-looking dude or that person's a good-looking dude. Like, I'm not attracted to him, but I'll tell you, yeah, you look pretty good. You're a good-looking guy.
I ain't gonna brag or anything like that, but I have been confused for Jimmy Garoppolo.
I can see that.
How drunk was the person? Can we start there?
It was the same person.
We know one thing. Rich wasn't doing shots with them.
It was the same person that confused me for Tupac too.
Hey, when I was in Ohio a couple of years ago, I told everybody I was Deshaun Watson when I got my massages. Was that a problem?
You didn't do that this past year?
Well, no, no, I didn't.
So, hey, going into round 3, Dak Prescott slipped into round 3. That I usually see him going in round 2. So seeing him drop to round 3, is that a little alarming for you guys?
I think it's great value, honestly.
Yeah, it's great value. I'm kind of surprised that he actually fell that far.
Exactly. That's what I was going at. But on the same token, what is it? Lyrical Team 3 starts out with Patrick Mahomes, then follows it up and gets the stack with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott.
Sorry, I'm getting ready to fill up the last draft, just so you guys know.
Got it.
I'm over looking at my draft to make sure that I'm not going to miss.
No, yeah, besides that, and this one, with it being super flex, I mean, I'm looking at the teams. Another person that's kind of, I don't know, you guys tell me how you feel about this. I know this is super flex, and I've had conversations with multiple people about this, but Calvin Ridley going in the 3rd, to me, I think that's too high for him. But I don't know, give me your take on that, because I just don't see him why he should be. He ain't the true number 1 there, I don't believe.
He's creeping up for sure, but I think he is the true number 1 there. I have tough time in the 3rd round trusting a guy who hasn't played in 18 months. So, I probably won't ever take him. I probably will never take him, period. That's just, his value isn't where I'd want it to be. Honestly, I can see him making me regret not taking him because he was a great wide receiver when he was healthy and not gambling. So, like I said, I can see him making me pay for not taking him, but I just won't ever get him. 3rd, 4th round is not where I want to take somebody like Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, well, I was kind of mentioning it on a while back. Is look, like last year, I was doing everything possible to pick up Ridley in dynasty leagues with some as far as trade value and everything. But I'm in on him, but I just don't see how he's going in the 3rd round in a lot of drafts that I'm in because of how many options that they have there, and he's been out for 2 years. So although I'm high on him as far as where I got him in the past year and a half because he hasn't played, I just don't like where people are drafting him in the 3rd round.
Absolutely. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm only a couple picks away now from mine. Rich, why don't you recap the 3rd round in yours?
So in the 3rd round of mine, we start out with Tony Pollard, Jalen Waddle, Dak Prescott, Derrick Henry, Chris Olave, Amon St. Brown, Calvin Ridley, Tua Tagovailoa, T. Higgins, and Josh Jacobs at 10. And then Ramondre Stevenson just went as the guy timed out, and it's at my spot right now as I am on the turn. So I will be making my picks here. For me, I went Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. I know people are afraid of him, but I have to go Jonathan Taylor here. I could have took him 3rd or 4th, but and then follow it up with Najee Harris. I'm hoping that Jonathan Taylor, I know we've kind of talked about this before, and I know George is not going to mind this at all, but I really hope a trade works out for him going to Miami as of tomorrow.
I'd be happy with that. I'd be real happy with that. I'm terrified at what it's going to do to our cap space, but I know it's been so long since I've been able to see my Dolphins be as good as I believe that they can be. So I would absolutely take it. It would definitely make it a top team in the AFC. So I'd be totally down with that. The last time we had a runner with the caliber and skill that Jonathan Taylor brings to the table was Ricky Williams.
Yeah.
And that was back when, he was in his prime before he got completely weeded out. So I would absolutely welcome it. It's been that long since we've had a running back at that caliber.
I would love to see it. With all that speed that they have on that team and to have him in the backfield, man, that could be a nightmare for a lot of other defenses.
Yep.
Which I know the Raiders will be playing against them in 1 week, so I'd be real scared that week.
Hey George, do we want to switch over to the other league and do like a 6-round? Who's your favorite team going in around 7?
We absolutely can. I'm trying to fill the last draft right now. We got one spot left, and then we'll be kicking this one off.
All right, so I'm taking a look at these teams. One QB league. Right now, I've got to say I really like 5 years deep. Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, Devontae Smith, DJ Moore, Justin Fields in the 5th round is a good value. Chris Godwin there, and then Dallas Goedert is a tight end that.
Yes, he's a tight
top
end.
5 for sure. Top 5 for sure. So, but I've seen him drop rounds for whatever reason. I can't explain why. Nothing bad's come out about him. But earlier in the offseason going ahead of guys like Darren Waller, earlier in the offseason going ahead of Kittle, going ahead of Pitts, here in this mock draft, after. So for 5 years deep, I like his team so far the best.
It's very hard for me to see. It's all pixelated for me, so I'm trying to. What the Nick Chubb team? Read that team to me.
Okay, it is Nick Chubb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, George Kittle, DeAndre Hopkins, and George Pickens.
See, I'm liking that team, even though they haven't drafted. Obviously, it's a single QB, so them not worrying about a QB right now. I like this. I mean, look, I love Amon. I know we were talking about it earlier. I would have drafted him before Diggs. Travis Etienne, I love at the 3rd round. That's usually where he's falling. Walker, I'm a little nervous, but look, I'm slowly starting to more higher up on him as the season gets closer. George Kittle, obviously, I would have rather have had Waller there, but Waller and Kittle are about even to me right now. And then to follow up with some veteran D-Hop, and then a young up-and-coming George Pickens who's looking real good in offseason again. I do like that team, the fact that he hasn't drafted a QB yet. I would like to see how this stacks up once he gets a QB.
And I know George is busy, so he's not going to pick a team.
No, I'm not even looking at that screen. Oh, you know what? I just timed out. I didn't even realize I was on the clock. There we go. Check that out. Pat Mahomes.
Who'd you take? There you go.
Pat Mahomes. I didn't realize I was even on the clock. That was my fault.
So we'll recap the 7th round in this league here. I took Rachaad White, then James Conner went, Pittman, Addison, Swift, Goddard, Dotson, who I love, Christian Kirk, who I'm assuming need Frito, if you don't think Ridley's number 1 in Jacksonville, Christian Kirk's number 1. James Cook, Pickens, Ingram, AJ Dillon, and then I am going to have to get out of this to look at the 12th pick because, again, the 12th pick. And then Gabe Davis, the aforementioned Gabe Davis. Very nice round. Picks I love, Jahan Dotson. I think that guy's going to be special. Is going to be better than McLaurin this year. Again, McLaurin's injured a little bit, got the toe. But even if he wasn't, I like Dotson's skills. Taken in the 1st round, 16th overall last year. I think he's a great pickup there in the 7th round.
Who was that? Dotson,
yeah.
You've been tooting the horn for Dotson for like
early.
The last 2.5 months, 3 months. Like going back a while now. You've been all on that Dotson train. So not surprised to hear that you like that pick there.
Yeah, I mean, look, he can make me look foolish just because Sam Howell may not be a great quarterback. We'll see. But like I said, I do like what we've seen out of him for sure.
I like Sam Howell a lot, man. You'll be getting good value for him where he's going in drafts, and the fact that their number 1 receiver is McLaurin. I know he's injured and stuff like that. Look, Dotson is a great pickup and everything, especially the way I think this team's going to work with new offensive coordinator there. I really do like him a lot. I really haven't talked highly about him at all, kind of keeping him under the radar and everything. I know I was at the live draft yesterday, and a friend that was sitting next to me, he kept on talking him up, and I was trying to talk him down to avoid him from picking so it could fall to me, but he was just too high on him.
I can tell you what I was hoping was going to fall to me was Herbert. He went 2 picks ahead of me. So I'm going to pivot and get a guy I don't have in any of my leagues, Zay Flowers. But too many good things about Zay Flowers. And then I am going to take an upside shot at quarterback here now that we are in the 9th round. We're in the 9th round. And I'm going to take Anthony Richardson here.
So I like Anthony Richardson. I'm concerned to have him as my quarterback 1. So I'm hoping later on in the draft you're going to take another quarterback to back him up, and that even really you could potentially start over him for the first couple of weeks, just because I'm not sure how good that offense is going to be, especially if they trade Jonathan Taylor. Like, I think that offense and I think that team is just going to be bad.
Well, don't be giving away my strategy. We'll get to it when we get there.
I'm not. I'm just saying this is what I'm hoping you're going to do.
Guys, what do you think about defenses going in round 9? We've had the Eagles and the 49ers go off the board.
So one of them was an auto draft. So I you can't say nothing about that. That's the Eagles. It was an auto draft for Team 4. But Team 5 is not an auto draft. G. Scott 523. I get wanting to have an elite defense. 49ers, in theory, should be an elite defense. But my issue is there's so many good players that'll go right into your starting lineup right now that I can't take a defense this early.
So I can tell you one defense
they went defense before they took a tight end. Like, I can't get on board with that.
There's one defense that I really like early and often, but the problem is I'll never take them as early as I need to for them to go. I might wait a couple rounds and see if they fall to me before I'll talk about them. But
look,
but if not,
defenses. Here's my take on it. In a single QB, you should not be drafting a defense till the last 3-4 rounds. Because here's a prime example of what George said. Look, I get 49ers defense in theory should be one of the top 2-3 defenses. But a couple years back, we saw the same thing about the Washington defense. They should have been a top 2-3 defense. And what happened to them that year? I mean, they were lucky if they were even in the top, in the back half, top 20. I mean, they were just, look, injuries happen and stuff like that. And defenses change every year. And the fact that, look, I get it. 49ers defense is good and everything, but you should not be drafting. You got players that are going to get a good average of 8 to 10 to 12 points in that round, that you're taking a defense that, look, 1 week they could score 25, 30 points and stuff like that. But next week, depending on the scoring system, could also score a -3 and everything, where usually in most safe leagues and stuff like that, receivers and running backs ain't going to score you a lot of negative points. And the fact that you're drafting a defense that could probably, depending on the scoring system, score you some negative points, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, no, I like taking defenses later. There's a couple of defenses I view as being that elite tier. In this case, back in this draft right here, the Eagles, I do have them in the elite tier. I do have the 49ers in an elite tier. I actually have the Ravens. I know their corners are not that great, but overall, I have them in an elite tier for defense. And if you're looking for schedules and going based off the schedules, 2 of the first 3 weeks, the Baltimore Ravens are playing the Indianapolis Colts at home and the Houston Texans at home. They actually opened the season with the Houston Texans, and they week 3 they're home to the Indianapolis Colts. Nobody's expecting either one of those 2 teams to be very good, so I would not mind at all taking the Ravens a little earlier than I would have to, I wouldn't mind it. And to get, you know, two of the worst teams the first 3 weeks, I like it. But I'm not willing to reach into the 8th or 9th round for defense. It has to be at least round 11 or 12 before I'll even consider looking at a defense.
Yeah, but here's a prime example, though. Look, I'm looking at the settings for our draft, and the 49ers defense, they're projected 105 points for the whole year. You're telling me you ain't going to find a tight end, a receiver that is that you're going to find 50% more people that are going to score that in the season and stuff like that. That's one reason why, like I said, and it really depends on your scoring system, but you just don't draft defenses that early.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. So on the draft that we have here on the screen, this is our final draft of the evening. It's a Superflex mock draft. I'll go through and I'll recap the first 2 rounds on this. Started out with Jalen Hurts, followed I took Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. So there's a little bit difference from your draft, Rich. Herbert actually did go in the first round. He went 1-9 in this one. Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce, and then Tyreek Hill to round out the first round. Start the second round, Austin Eckler, Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Trevor Lawrence went 2-5 to not cool 18. Animal Jackson took Saquon Barkley at 2-6. JSM 17, Nick Chubb, auto draft Stephon Diggs, Goodrich, AJ Brown. We had like a little bit of a running or wide receiver run here with Diggs, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, and Garrett Wilson. What do you guys think about the first 2? Actually, we can really do the first 3 rounds so far because we're almost done in the 3rd round here.
See, that one right there is a typical draft that I've seen for most super flexes this whole offseason. I mean, look, a majority of your first half picks in the first round are QBs, which is trending the way that I've usually been seeing it. Then you always see the running backs. And here's a prime example where Josh Jacobs fell to the beginning of the 3rd and everything. Yep. And so much in this one, he hasn't started moving up the board like we did in Jason's. So this one is more of a typical draft that I've seen. Ain't nothing really that stands out to me as far as looking at the teams as of right now.
Well, to be fair, Rich, it's 3rd round because it's super flex, and a lot of the first round went quarterbacks.
Oh yeah. No, I get that. Yeah.
So,
right.
Because in this one, Jacobs went ahead of Henry, went ahead of Pollard. That's not something we've seen typically, right? I've seen Henry go much earlier. I've seen Pollard. There's people that have Pollard as their number 1 running back.
So what running back was he taken off the board? Is that 6?
1, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, running back 6.
Okay. Well, then that makes sense.
He is creeping back up for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it helps that he's reporting to camp because he just signed the contract, the 1-year contract, where they gave him a little bit of a raise. So that kind of helps. I'll recap the 3rd round on this real quick. 3rd round, as we mentioned, Josh Jacobs to start off. I went with the stack, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa stack there. Also, I'm a Dolphin fan, so given the opportunity to do that stack, I had to jump on it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson. Him going all the way in the 3rd round in the Superflex kind of surprised me. Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Tony Pollard, Chris Olave, Jonathan Taylor, Calvin Ridley, and T. Higgins to round out round number 3. What do you guys think about Deshaun Watson falling all the way to the 3rd round?
Go ahead, Jason. I'm fixing to make my picks.
I mean, in a Superflex, I think that's great value for the guy who, grabbed him for sure.
Yep.
I like it. I'm a big fan of taking him there. So good for him. And damn it, somebody ruined my quarterback strategy by taking his 2nd quarterback after taking Daniel Jones.
Oh, that's who you were looking at?
I was looking at Geno Smith to pair, and now I'm going to have a much lesser than. But that's fine. I will pivot. I'll just take
I'm on
the
the
QB
clock
much later.
I'm going to take a running back who I took Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not a big fan of Ramondre. I don't think he's going to be nearly as productive as he was last year, but I still think he'll be heavily involved in the passing game in New England. And I'm not sure we can rely on Ezekiel Elliott to do a whole lot in New England. What do you think about Zeke Elliott in New England with Ramondre, Jason? How do you view that backfield?
What I do think is it limits the touchdown upside. Ramondre wasn't great in the red zone last year. He wasn't great on the goal line last year. What was Zeke? Great at the goal line, great in the red zone. So I think it does definitely limit the touchdown upside. So that's where my issue would come more than anything else.
Okay.
Look, so I'm not worried. I'm not worried about Zeke being there and stuff like that. I would be worried about it if they still had the same offensive coordinator. Look, they got a new offensive coordinator. I can't think of his name. From Houston that used to coach. He's back in there as the offensive coordinator. Look, I'm more excited about Ramondre Stevenson there with the change of the offensive coordinator. If Ramondre did what he did last year with the coordinator there, I'm just more pumped about what's in store for him this year, even with Zeke being there and even with him still in some of those goal lines. I think it does change things up with the offensive coordinator and not defensive coordinators that they had running the offense last year.
You're thinking Bill O'Brien.
There you go. Bill O'Brien. There you go. I like him back over there. I think it's going to be an upgrade for that offense and for Ramondre.
So guys, I'm going to take Pat Hoffer coming in clutch here with the O'Brien take.
Well, I was thinking Brian, but I was thinking his first name.
Go ahead, Jason.
I'm taking my defense in round 13.
That's fair.
Shame.
They are still there. Now, look, George talked about the Baltimore Ravens. They're still on the board. I'm going to take the defense I really like. I'm taking the New Orleans Saints. And let me tell you why, and I'm going to pull it up here real quick. We talked about the schedule for the Ravens. Give me that schedule one more time, George, for the Ravens.
So Baltimore, they open the year at home against Houston. Then they go at Cincinnati, which granted it's going to be a tough game. And then they're at home to Indianapolis. So 2 of the first 3 games are against 2 of the worst teams in the league.
All right. So the Saints have the Titans, the Panthers, the Jordan Love Packers, the Buccaneers, the Mac Jones Patriots, and the Texans the first 6 weeks of the season.
So I kind of like Jordan Love, to be honest. Now I think
he has a shot to be good, but he's not good yet.
Listen, I don't think he's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's going to be Brett Favre level good, right? Like I don't think he's going to be, a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Rich, can you scroll on your screen down a little bit so we can see who's being picked? Thank you. I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Fame level quarterback. Like that would just be insane to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, 3 consecutive Hall of Fame quarterbacks, right? That is probably not in the cards for Jordan Love. But
it could happen.
It could. It's probably not. But to say, and I'm going to use your old adage of the Andy Dalton quarterback level test. I think he's better than Andy Dalton. I think he's an adequate quarterback. I think he's Daniel Jones level quarterback. I think he's got some mobility to him. I think he's going to be a decent passer. And if they give him, I like Christian Watson. I like what they did with their draft, with their drafting their tight ends and whatnot. I like Romeo Doubs, but I think they need a true alpha on that team. I don't think Christian Watson is a true alpha. If they give him a true alpha type wide receiver, I think Jordan Love will end up being very, very good.
So guys, what he's talking about when we talked about the Andy Dalton test, we're not talking about Andy Dalton today. We're talking about when he was, prime Bengals Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
And my comment on Andy Dalton, and I used it for a long time, was If you had a quarterback better than Andy Dalton, you didn't need a quarterback. If you had a quarterback worse than Andy Dalton, you needed a quarterback. He was kind of the mid-level line for QBs in the league. So that's what he's talking about there. And so when you're doing that test, Jordan Love's better than Andy Dalton was. You don't need a quarterback, but that doesn't mean you're good. It just means you're not on the hunt for one.
Correct.
So that's what George is talking about there. It's a little bit dated now because Andy Dalton's the backup to a rookie in Carolina.
Yeah, if you have a quarterback right now that's not better than Andy Dalton, you're in a world of hurt.
World of hurt. Hey, so the guys in my chat here on my sleeper are talking about. Anybody heard any rumors about the Bears shopping Mooney?
I have not heard anything on that.
I thought I seen something about that, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
It makes sense when you think, oh yeah, it's the Bears.
Yeah.
It makes no sense any other time, but when you go, oh yeah, it's the Bears.
Sorry, I'm on the clock. And
yeah, I apologize. I'm replying back to the chat in my draft. One of the guys was saying, "Wow, Herbert Lawrence at this turn is nuts. Great value." So then I'm replying back saying, "Yeah." So after having a conversation with the other guys on the show, I had to draft Garoppolo to make sure I had the three most handsomest QBs in the whole draft.
You want some pretty QBs? Those are some pretty QBs.
All right, pretty. I'll go with that.
So let's see here. I'm almost on the clock, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take he's not a flashy QB by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of guys above him here on the list. I like the upside he presents while I'm waiting to decide if Richardson's going to be the thing. I'm going to take Derek Carr here in the 14th round.
I knew it. I love it.
Rich loves that pick.
Rich he's on board with me.
I am not going to what the heck happened?
I don't know what happened.
Well, I lost my draft on my phone.
Yeah, so on my draft so far, here, let me pull it up on here, and we'll look at mine real quick. That's this one. That's this one. There we go. So on the draft that I'm in, I'm not going to go through and read back all of the picks because I'd have to recap like 5 rounds, and I'm just not going to do that. But I am going to recap my team so far. Pat Mahomes, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, Ramondre Stevenson, Aaron Jones, Chris Godwin, and Cam Akers. Jason, if you can look at these real quick, I don't know if you're on the clock in your league or not, but is there any teams on here that stand out that you like what they've been able to do so far?
Let me pull it up real quick and give it a quick look. So I can't see the top picks because you're scrolled down to 11. Give me 2 seconds. Let me see if I can go to our Gilded chat and get into the league. Which league number was that, George?
We'll do it that way. Would be number 9. Number 9.
All right.
So far outside of my team, so I'm going to disqualify my team from obviously from being one of the ones that could be talked about as being potentially good. The one that I'm interested in to see what he's going to do is Optimus Hind at the 1-3. He went Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, James Conner, and then Christian Kirk. So his only quarterback right now on the roster is Josh Allen. So he's going hero quarterback in a Superflex league. I'm interested to see what he does for that second quarterback. But so far, I kind of like what he's been able to do. Two elite wide receivers and target monsters in Adams and St. Brown. If Najee Harris can bounce back, which I'm hoping he does this year to be a more efficient running back. I know the Steelers have improved their offensive line. They're getting some guys back healthy. They drafted a couple offensive line in the draft. They drafted a big old blocking tight end. If Najee Harris can have a bounce back like he did his rookie season, this is going to be a very formidable team so far.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the teams when I was going through, and then I was going to be like, man, the Patrick Mahomes guy's doing great, and that's you, so I can't use yours.
No, you can use my team. I can't use my team.
Well, I can't use your team either, honestly, because it's not
fine.
fair to the people that were.
Basically, everybody, he just said I draft better than you. That's all. Continue, Jason. Please continue.
So I'll continue with the draft that we have that we are showing currently right now. So, like I said, this is a super flex league. I do like team number 6. He doesn't have a team name. Look, this is a super flex, and he didn't draft his QB till round 6, his first one. So he starts out with McCaffrey, Barkley, follows it up with Amon, Mark Andrews, Debo, and then drafted Jared Goff in the 6th and Derek Carr in the 8th. In between, he had a sandwich with Michael Pittman, and then he's starting to follow it up with some later rounds. But for a start, not having QBs, I know we talked about that before. That is a good start, and still has 2 solid QBs at his disposal.
Team 6 is the auto draft. So basically, Rich likes the auto draft better than everybody else's draft. Why are we drafting when the auto draft does better than us?
Hey, George, my draft is just about to end. So if we want to recap the teams.
Let's go ahead and recap the teams, but give me 1 minute because I am in the middle of making my picks here on the turn. So, actually, I've got enough time. I can switch it over to your draft. That's not a problem. There you go, Jason.
All right, guys. And we're just about done here with this draft, like I mentioned. I'm going to pop this bad boy back up big time. I'll have to scroll up so we can talk about all the teams. Too many screens open, guys. It's just too much going on.
Yeah, I feel that.
We're going to start with my team because, of course, I like it the most. I drafted it. I've got Justin Jefferson, Mixon, Gibbs, Watson, Waller, Marquise Brown, Rashad White, Zay Flowers, Anthony Richardson, Tank Bigsby, Rashad Bateman, Kendre Miller, the Saints defense, Derek Carr, Rondell Moore, and I'm going to have to take a kicker here. You don't have to take a kicker, but, to the spirit of the thing, I'm going to take Jake Elliott, Eagles kicker, and that is going to sum this up. Any thoughts on my team, Rich?
Give me 1 second. I'm making my picks, and I will follow right back with you.
So, Jason, I'll talk about your team.
Go ahead. All right, go ahead, buddy.
So you started off with Justin Jefferson, which you never get Justin Jefferson. So I kind of like that for you. Happy that you finally got a share of Justin Jefferson in one of these drafts. Mixon, I like him. I think I would have rathered Aaron Jones, but I get it. Like, there's no competition there for Mixon at all. And you know what you're getting with him. He's going to be very involved in the passing game there. He's always involved in the passing game in Cincinnati. Jahmyr Gibbs, that's your guy. Like, you've drafted him in numerous leagues. That's your guy. I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think you're getting him at a discount, to be honest. Like, people are all excited about Bijan Robinson because he was drafted, number 6 or number 8 overall, whatever it was, to the Falcons. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs was number 12 to the Tigers or the Lions. So
Lions
or Bears. Oh my! They're going to use him. Like, he's going to get a decent workload. So I like the Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian Watson, Darren Waller, Marquise Brown, Rashard White. My guy Zay Flowers. I love Zay Flowers. I compare him to a young Antonio Brown. And I'm not saying he's going to go out and put out Antonio Brown numbers. What I mean by a young Antonio Brown, the way he runs his routes, how fluid he is, the way he cuts, like, that reminds me a lot of Antonio Brown. We talked about Anthony Richardson. I'm glad you backed him up with Derek Carr. I could see you actually rolling out Derek Carr for the first couple of weeks while Richardson gets settled in there. overall, your team is pretty solid. Is it my favorite one here? No, but it is a very, very solid team. It's in the top 3.
It is. Right. I like it too. I think my only concern, and maybe I'm just not high on him, but I probably would have drafted Pittman over Brown. I'm worried what they're doing in Arizona with them cutting McCoy. It's almost like, all right, you know what? Let's get rid of the quarterback that's gonna be more steady, more of a steady QB and let's just go with the 2 backups, one which we just recently picked up this past week and everything. So let's just get rid of him and let's just tank for Williams,
My thought there is what tends to happen when you have a bad quarterback is he focuses on the number 1 option. The only real number 1 option in town is Marquise Brown. I think he's going to get nailed with targets. So that's my thought picking him there. Whereas Pittman, you've got a guy, I mean, you have a couple other targets there that Richardson can throw down the field to, and I think Pittman is going to be the one that suffers there. That's the reason why I'd go. I mean, honestly, I was hoping for George will know who I wanted in that round was Deontay Johnson. Didn't quite make it to me. So I pivoted to Marquise Brown. But I get what you're saying for sure. Like, it's a bad team. I'll take oftentimes, as an example, and these 2 players aren't the same, but Tua goes down. Tyreek Hill's volume goes way up, and Waddle's goes way down. Why?
Yep.
Because you're targeting the number 1 on the team, the guy who's open, the guy who's good. I'm not saying they're the same player, but I'm just saying like that's my thought process on somebody like Marquise Brown with the quarterbacks he's got. There's not a Waddle there to even attempt to throw it to. Marquise Brown's the guy. So that's why I liked him there. But looking at, I want to do all these teams real quick. Tony Tiger, Chase Waddle's an incredible start. Throwing in Patrick Mahomes, Hopkins. The problem for me on this, and he tried to make up for it later, I don't think he got there, was when you do that, J.K. Dobbins, Connors, Charbonnet, Brian Robinson, McKinnon, solid running backs. It's a decent strategy, just not my favorite. I would have loved a running back a little bit early, but that's what happens when you take in a 1 quarterback league, when you go both tight end and quarterback in the first 4 rounds, you do suffer at one of the wide receiver or running back positions. And so I do think he suffered just a little bit at running back.
Yeah, if he would have skipped that Judy pick and went a running back there, it probably would have been a little bit better lineup. But the fact that he went receiver there, even after drafting the top 2 on the top, he should have probably went a running back there at that position.
Well, and then also, while he might not need him right away because he's got Chase and Waddle, Judy's got that hamstring and probably not playing week 1. Yeah. Or it's going to be tough for him to play week 1. So, then Gomez did Christian McCaffrey with Najee, Calvin Ridley, Akers, Lamar Jackson. He took my Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman,
it's
Herbert.
Deontay,
sorry.
Deontay. B-A. He's your Bay.
And then Herbert, of course, another guy that I was really hoping would fall to me there. Njoku, Elliott, Steelers, McPherson. Again, we talked about Ridley going too early for my taste, but look, to have Johnson there and as a steadying factor, I like that pick. I like that pairing. It's kind of like I was saying with Mixon, Steady, and Gibbs is your wild card. You can take a shot on Ridley when you have somebody like Johnson who's going to soak up the target. So I like that.
I like their team.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the chat back up. I'm going to see if anybody's still on here and wants us to talk about their team. I know like 5 years deep is still here, so I'm going to talk about 5 years deep team for sure. Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, killer start with running backs. Smith and DJ Moore, you could do way worse on wide receivers. I like that too. Justin Fields, killer running in the 5th round, great. And then you come back with Godwin, who's going to get a bunch of targets. So that rounds out your wide receivers there. And then we talked about the value with Goddard going later than Pitts and Kittle. Antonio Gibson, Sutton. Sutton's interesting now, especially with Judy hurt. And then Pirine is, we don't know if Javante's going to be able to hold up. And then George's favorite late round pick, Mostert, in round 12.
Listen, if you look at what the Dolphins have done this preseason, they by far and away ran the ball more than anybody else. And they're averaging well over 5 yards per carry. And that's with Armstead, Teron Armstead not playing very much. Our best left tackle. That's with our starting center not playing. That's with a mishmash past, whatever you want to call it, of offensive line. Like half of our starters weren't even playing in the preseason. And yet we not only led the league, but we were like 40 yards a game more than any other team. So, yeah, if the Dolphins sit pat and Raheem Mostert is the guy there, like he's gonna put up points as long as he can stay healthy. He suffers a lot of soft tissue injuries, so it is definitely a risk. But man, when he's healthy, he's absolutely worth playing.
All right, if those are the only two guys still showing online, if somebody wanted to chat with us and let us know they want us to talk about their team, we can do that. But if you want to go to one of your guys' drafts, we can talk about that instead.
We can switch to mine because of my last pick.
There you go, Rich.
All right, so as we are trailing down to the end and everything, obviously, just like Jason, in the spirit of drafting a actual standard team, I did go kicker in round 14 with two more rounds left. I was the first team to go kicker or defense, but I've already basically got my starting lineup with a few solid bench. Now, this is the time we've discussed and stuff like that. Instead of drafting a little bit higher up and stuff like that, wait to those last 2-3 rounds to start. And ideally, you want to be the first one that starts a trend, but it doesn't look like I started the trend at all.
No, it kind of looks like you left yourself out there on the line there a little bit.
Yeah, but on the same token, look I like Jawan Johnson there in that round. That's a good solid pick. I probably overlooked him when I should have probably drafted him. I do have a team in my league that they want us to talk about his team, and that is going to be team number 2. Started out with Jalen Hurts in the first round, then went Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Jerry Jeudy, DeAndre Swift, Bryce Young, A.J. Dillon, Zay Flowers, Rashad Penny, Dalton Schultz, and Bateman. Your thoughts on his team?
Look, he hit a bunch of guys that I like. It's a little tough to have Bryce Young as your second quarterback in a super flex. You probably would have loved if Carr or Purdy would have lasted one more round. Jeudy is a tough one for me as well because, again, we've talked about he was injured. I would have probably liked Ayuk, Godwin, Lockett there. I mean, my guy Jahan Dotson a couple rounds later. So, Judy's tough because the talent's there when he's healthy. If you have room on your bench to just sit him and play somebody else for a little bit, I'm okay with that because the talent's there when he does come back. But, man, the major hamstring issues right before the season start can potentially linger on and on and on. Look what happened with Keenan Allen last year. Keenan Allen didn't recover until it was almost way too late for you in your season. So that means you're going to be holding Jerry Jeudy for a good long time if it's anything like that, right? So that's my only worry there. But I love the start for sure. Hurts, Adams, Waddle, Mixon, Jones. It's the same kind of running back strategy I was talking about. You got a pass-catching guy, maybe not the best running chops there, but a pass-catching guy out of the backfield like I got with Gibbs. But then you end up with Mixon as well. And again, it's a volume play. It's a guy who's the only one in his backfield, going to get a lot of rushing. and still got like something like 50 something receptions last year. If you get anywhere near that volume from Mixon again, he's going to pay dividends. So I love the start. Jerry Judy's about where it falls off for me just a little bit.
Yeah, so at that point where he drafted, you kind of hit it on the nail. I probably would have liked Godwin, but he did follow up with the Zay Flowers 4 rounds later. So solid fill-in for the beginning of the season. If we are starting 3 receivers as a third receiver, I wouldn't mind having Zay Flowers and that speed in that offense and everything. So even though he kind of maybe missed out on Chris Godwin there, I do like how he followed up with Zay Flowers down the road. And then he also picked up Rashad Bateman late, so it's kind of like you have that a receiver by committee if something ever happens to one or the other.
And Bateman, I think, is one of those guys that has shown time and time again that when he's on the field, he's got the juice. It's just a matter of him getting on the field. I do think it's interesting that you end up with both Bateman and Zay Flowers. It'd be tough to know which one to start, especially early. So hopefully you're not starting them early. But I like having them both because one of those guys is going to be super fantasy relevant. And where you took Bateman in the 13th round, it's almost free, basically.
Another team that wants us to discuss is, and I wanted to kind of talk about this team too, is J.R. Trejos. I hope I pronounced that right. I sound silly if I didn't. But he started out with Justin Jefferson, Nick Chubb, Chris Olave, Travis Etienne. His first QB in a super flex was Geno Smith. Then he followed up with Kyle Pitts, James Conner, Dalvin Cook, Treylon Burks, Greg Dulcich, Alan Lazard, and then his second QB is Ryan Tannehill in the 12th, followed up with Tyler Boyd in the Eagles defense. Now, I was going to mention this team earlier. I like the way this team was going, and it was around pick 11 where he picked Alan Lazard. And maybe even Greg Dulcich. I probably would have looked at a QB at that point, especially in the super flex, on maybe trying to upprove. Because available for him was,
it's not much.
Now
better.
that I'm looking at that, and maybe he should have gone a little bit sooner and stuff like that. I just would have liked a better a second QB than Tannehill. What do you think of his team?
I'm okay with Geno being the first quarterback because you ended up with Jefferson. You got Nick Chubb. So to me, Jefferson's the number 1 wide receiver. Chubb's top 5. Olave, I like. ETN, I think Tank Bigsby's going to eat a lot of his work. But you got a solid start there. And then Geno Smith at quarterback, that's great. For me, where you probably wanted to take a quarterback was before Burks, in my opinion. At that point, Love was still there. Kenny Pickett was still there. Matt Stafford was still there.
Heck, even Jimmy G was still there.
Well, he wasn't going for pretty. I probably would have taken that. Look, I like Treylon Burks. I was so high on him at the start of the season until he got injured, until they got Hopkins. It's such a low volume passing offense that while I think Burks is ultimately talented, I think in having Hopkins pulled number 1 targets away from him, they just don't rush enough or pass enough to me to make it so that Burks is more in one of these rounds than one of those quarterbacks he could have had. So that's where I would have deviated a little bit, but I love the start there.
All right, and one, the last third guy that wanted us to talk about his team was Lyricals. He was in the spot number 3. He started out with Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Keenan Allen, Hawkinson, Miles Sanders, Chris Godwin, James Cook, Gabe Davis, Brandon Cooks. If I believe he was the first team to take a defense with the 49ers, followed up with Cole Kmet, Baker Mayfield as his third QB, and Zeke Elliott and David Singletary. Your thoughts on his draft?
I'm a running back guy, so Miles Sanders and James Cook being your starting running backs is hard for me. Both upside guys, hopefully for him, if this were going to be a team, hopefully they work out for him. He's got Georgia's number 1 tight end going into the season with TJ Hawkinson. Well, not number 1, obviously. Not number 1. Kelsey's number 1.
Yeah, number 1 in my heart.
You're number 1 in Georgia's heart. There you go. I love Keenan Allen. It's a volume play. CeeDee Lamb's explosive. Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott probably. I'm taking a look real quick. I mean, honestly, other than your team, Rich, the best multi-quarterback team here, the best 2 quarterbacks paired together. But for me, I can't get over just Miles Sanders, James Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, and Singletary being the running backs. Looking where I might have done something a little different. Instead of the 49ers defense, taking Tank Bigsby there would have gone a long way, for example. Or even a shot on Warren or A-Chain or Mostert is a starter still. So I think the defense was a bit early, and you could have shored up. If you're going to go a 0 RB a bit, it's not quite 0 RB, but a little bit of a 0 RB. You got to take shots on guys like Kendre Miller and Mostert and Bigsby, those kind of guys a little later. So that's the spot there, though. I think you could have done it. Now, your wide receivers are incredible. Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, and Chris Godwin. I love the wide receivers there. So I think it's a solid team top to bottom. Not my style of draft, so it's hard for me to critique it fairly, I think.
So if we don't have anybody else on this one that wants their draft critiqued, I got a couple of guys in my draft. We just wrapped up as well.
I got one more, but I know we've already talked about 3 teams. I don't know how you guys feel about time, but we could wrap it over to yours, George.
Well, let's do Rod Zafarian real quick. He's in there. He made a comment in our.
He was the first one we talked about.
Oh, yeah, he was the first one. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the only one the last one, and I feel really like we need to talk about this team because if I'm correct, Fantasy Guru, right, he is a Patreon member.
Yep.
And so I feel like it's obligation of that we got to make sure we take care of our Patreon members and talk about his team.
Okay, so
go ahead.
I'll read through it real quick, if you don't mind. So it's Austin Eckler, Deshaun Watson, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, Damian Pierce, Terry McLaurin, Rashad White, Jordan Addison, Evan Ingram, Matt Stafford, Desmond Ridder, Jalen Warren, Adam Thielen, Jawan Johnson, and the Steelers defense. Watson and Stafford are not. Watson is a great quarterback. Stafford and Ridder, you had to take quarterbacks late. I get it. Starting with Eckler, Pierce, White, not bad running backs. I love Eckler, obviously. Damian Pierce is going up draft boards. And then T. Higgins and Devontae Smith. What do you guys think about the 2 second-year wide receivers there? Risky move going with those 2 guys. Anybody on the board at that point you take instead?
They're third-year receivers.
Sorry, third year.
I get where you're going. It's almost like they're 1A. They're like the 1B receiving of both teams.
Yeah, I don't mind Higgins. I like Smith a little bit more than Higgins. You're getting 2 wide receiver 2s on their team, but they're also high-powered offenses as well with both Philadelphia and Cincinnati. So I don't mind that. The one thing that really stands out to me as far as that draft, I understand he's going to be suspended for 3 games, but I think I would have taken Alvin Kamara over Rashard White because where he drafted Rashard White at the 7-9, the very next pick was Alvin Kamara. And I get he's going to miss 3 games, but I still think I would have gone with Alvin Kamara over White there, knowing he's going to miss 3 games. And I think that would have boosted his running back room a lot more. And it would have been significantly better after week 3, where he's starting Austin Eckler and Alvin Kamara versus Austin Eckler and Rashard White or Austin Eckler and Damian Pierce. I think you could have gotten away with Damian Pierce as your RB2 for the first couple of weeks. And then after week 3, going into week 4, you get Alvin Kamara and the Saints, who not only do they play in the NFC, but they play in the NFC South. And that's a pretty weak division. And the Saints, I believe, have the second or third easiest schedule the entire year. So I think that right there was a misjudgment. I get, people like Rachaad White. I don't think he's going to catch nearly as many passes as they threw to the running backs last year.
So Baker, I believe, was top 10 throwing to his running backs every season he's played. So there is some opportunity there, especially with the news that Tampa center is out for the season. That offensive line is going to be just that much worse. Now, you could say Cade Otton potentially is going to be the benefactor there, but Rachaad White's going to see some balls out of the backfield, getting the ball out quick as well. So
I think he'll see some. I don't think he's going to see 70, 80 plus is what I'm saying.
True, but I think if he catches 50, you're going to be super happy with what you got out of Rachaad White. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention about this team, because we're talking about we talked about wide receiver 2s on his team. He loaded up on him. Yeah. So Higgins is a 2, Devontae Smith is a 2. I love Dotson, so Terry McLaurin's a 2. Jordan Addison's a 2.
Terry McLaurin's the one on his team, Jason. Stop it.
Nah, he was the number 1 on his team.
He still is the one on his team.
Look, I'm calling it here. Dotson is going to be the number 1 wide receiver on that team. I said it about Elijah Moore. I'm saying it now. It's less controversial to say it about Dotson, but I'm saying it anyway. All right, George.
Real quick, I like his team and everything. Look, the way that the draft fell to him, look, he almost went the best available person on the board at each position, because, if you sit there and think about it, in round 4, look, if Gibbs would have fell one more spot to him, it would have been a whole different outcome and stuff like that. I would have loved for Gibbs to fall there, but look, for where he was at and everything, it ain't a bad team and stuff like that. I just hate the fact that you don't see a true number 1 receiver on there.
Yeah, I agree. There's not a true number 1 receiver on there. All right, let's pull up my draft. That is this one here. Draft 3 Superflex. All right. So on this one right here, the first person that asked us to break down their team was JSM, which was team number 6. So he drafted Joe Burrow, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Geno Smith, Dameon Pierce, Jerry Jeudy, Dallas Goedert, Tyler Lockett, David Njoku, Michael Thomas, Raheem Mostert, Jamal Williams. Yeah, it's Jamal Williams from Detroit, Mooney, Raheed Shaheed, Chuba Hubbard, and Alex Pierce. What do you guys think of that?
Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, I was responding to somebody in my draft, so
that's fine.
So the one. Go ahead, George.
The one thing I'm not a huge fan of, and listen, I like Tyler Lockett, but I think he's very weak at wide receiver. So Jerry Jeudy dealing with the hamstring, potentially not going to start the season is not going to start the season, right? So that means Tyler Lockett, his wide receiver 1. Michael Thomas is his wide receiver 2. Jamal Williams, I love the talent. Or Jameson Williams, rather. Jameson Williams. I love the talent, but he's suspended the first 6 games. Then it go Darryl Mooney and Raheed Shaheed round out his wide receiver core. So not a huge fan of that wide receiver core. You're relying a lot on Michael Thomas and Tyler Lockett, because I don't think Jerry Jeudy is going to be there, and I know Jameson Williams is not going to be there. So I think the wide receiver core is a huge question mark. I love his quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Geno Smith. Absolutely love it. Nothing but good things to say about that. You want to talk about guys who do nothing but run the ball and don't catch it very much? Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Dameon Pierce. This is a full PPR league for the mock draft. These guys are not going to catch the ball very much, but man, they're going to run the hell out the ball. So I like the running backs. Hopefully Pierre Strong doesn't cut too much into the workload for Nick Chubb as far as receiving goes. I know up until recently where he got traded, everybody was expecting Nick Chubb to see a huge increase of running back targets, but Pierre Strong is a very good receiver, receiving running back. So hopefully he doesn't cut too much into the potential of Nick Chubb receiving the ball as well, because he's not going to touch Nick Chubb in the goal line. He's not going to touch Nick Chubb running the ball. And what can you say about King Henry? Like, getting him in the third was a steal. But solid team overall. I'm just not a huge fan of the wide receivers. What do you guys think?
No, I'm 100% with you on that for sure. Lockett being the number one going into the season, I like Lockett, but he's not a number. He can't be your first wide receiver. So, completely agree with you there. Hey, I do want to mention that my computer's plugged in, but for whatever reason, it's not charging. It's gone from 10% to 4% to 1%. So if I disappear here, that's why it's telling me 3 minutes until fully charged at 1% battery. So something not right is happening here.
Something's not right. Something doesn't add up.
So I think that means I have 3 minutes left. So if I'm gone, thank you guys for watching tonight. But that's what happens. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, I can relate to not charging the laptop before doing a show. It happened to me last week. Rich, what do you think about?
I plugged in before doing the show, so I'm a little worried about what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm ditto to everything you guys said. I'm not going to dive too much in the team because you guys pretty much covered it. If there's another team that you was wanting to talk about,
yep, it's the very first one. PJ Hof 07 started with Jalen Hurts, Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Daniel Jones, Ken Walker, Darren Waller, Drake London, David Montgomery, Jahan Dotson, Brock Purdy, Samaje Perine, Sky Moore, Adam Thielen, Evan Hall, Ty Chandler, and the Baltimore Ravens defense.
Yeah, for a number one team, look, I mean, obviously you're starting out with was it Hurts, correct?
Yep.
Look, I love this team. I mean, as you go down the draft and stuff like that, obviously you're going to be getting those third stringers, those bench players and everything. But the fill out a starting lineup, look, you got Hurts and Jones that is super flex, both running QBs and stuff like that. They both can throw. Look, the receiver, running backs, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker. I can't see who was the third running back.
David Montgomery. Samaje Perine, Evan Hall.
Yeah, maybe running backs are a little weak. Yeah, obviously you got Josh Jacobs, the anchor, but I would be more worried about your running backs. I love the receivers that he started out with, even getting Jahan Dotson as his third receiver. So to me, Waller, look, I love Waller, but it's the running backs where it kind of falters a little bit for me.
So to me, and again, this is all personal preference, but if you guys are watching us, you want to know what I have to think. To me, Walker falls after Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon, just because we don't know how Charbonnet is going to be used. Like if you start with Jacobs and end up with Jones or Mixon, I like that running back room just a little bit better.
Oh, looks like it was true.
Yep. So what he was saying was he would like the team a little bit better. Let's go ahead and just remove Jason from the stream. So I agree with what he's saying. Kenneth Walker, like if they didn't spend the 41st pick overall on Zach Charbonnet, I would love Kenneth Walker. Matter of fact, he would not be there in the 5th round. He probably would be going more closer to the 4th round or even up in the 3rd round.
Correct.
Just after Jonathan Taylor, Tony Pollard, before Ramondre, Najee, and Etienne. That's where I would have him personally ranked. But there is a question mark of what they're going to do there. So I do agree with Jason where if he would have went with Aaron Jones or Joe Mixon there, I significantly like that running back room a lot better.
Yeah.
I love Darren Waller. I was actually contemplating taking Darren Waller where I took Chris Godwin, and I was like, he'll come back to me. And if not, there's still a couple of tight ends that I like. So, bam, snipe, next pick, Darren Waller. Listen, I think Darren Waller has the opportunity to finish as a top 3 tight end. I think he's going to eat in New York. They're going to target him heavily. So I love the Darren Waller pick. And I love the fact that he's got three very good, reliable quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, they're both mobile. They can run.
Mm-hmm.
But then he in the 10th round, he went with Brock Purdy. So if one of those guys gets injured, you're not going to be like me scrambling to try to find a third quarterback, because I didn't take a third quarterback. I only took 2. By the time I went around to looking at grabbing a third quarterback, they were gone. And then I ran into a huge tight end run. So I thought about the tight ends when I was actually thinking about drafting them. I was planning on grabbing one in the 12th, but at the time in the 11th, Dalton Schultz was available, Dalton Kincaid, Cole Clement, Chigo Conquay, and Tyler Higbee were all available. And I'm like, all right, one of those guys will get back to me. None of them did. This group pounded tight ends in the 11th and the 12th round, left me with Gerald Everett and
Juwan
Johnson. Yeah, from the Saints, who I don't mind Johnson that much. I think he's sneaky, but I'm definitely playing waiver wires on the tight ends and streaming at this point. Outside of that, like, I know if Jason was here, he'd probably love my team. Pat Mahomes, Jalen Waddle, Tua, Ramondre, Aaron Jones, Chris Godwin, Cam Akers, Deontay Johnson, Khalil Herbert, Elijah Moore, Jerick McKinnon, Everett Johnson, the Eagles defense. I'm very proud of the group. No, but I was the first one to grab a defense, and that was at the end of the 14th round.
Yep.
Nobody took a
right.
defense. Yeah, nobody took a defense before the end of the 14th round, which is the way you should do it. Then I took a flyer on Deion Jackson. If they do trade Jonathan Taylor, if you're still watching, Jackson's a name to be familiar with. He got all the starting snaps in the preseason finale game with the starters. They mixed in Evan Hall as well. So you're probably looking at the rookie Evan Hall. So you'll be looking at a running back by committee. But Jackson is the guy I really like there. Last year, when Jonathan Taylor was out, he actually had a game where he had 10 targets and 10 receptions. He actually blew up in a couple of games last year. So I do like Deion Jackson, especially getting him in the 15th round. And then Jake Moody rounds up my team.
So quick question real quick for you. Zach Moss, Are you not worried about him? I know he's out right now with a broken hand, but are you not worried about him at all if Jonathan Taylor is traded?
No, not worried about him at all. I think Evan Hall is a much better running back than Zach Moss. And I think Deion Jackson showed last year he can handle a decent workload without Jonathan Taylor there. So I'm honestly not – Zach Moss – I don't think he threatens anything on this team.
Gotcha.
So
what other teams we got? Did anybody else wanted to talk about?
I think those were the only two. Those were the only two that asked us to break down their teams. So I think we can go ahead and wrap this up, Rich. We can go ahead and get out of here.
I agree, 100%.
So normally I allow Jason to send us off into the to say all the farewells, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because, let's face it, he did a rookie move and he didn't plug in his laptop. What you got, Rich?
All right, so real quick, closing out, guys. Look, thanks for everybody being here. Look, help us out. Subscribe, follow us. Gilded Chat. Hey, come join us. We're doing lots of things in there. We're having tons of discussions with everybody in there. Come be part of the family and stuff like that. Sign up for Patreon and look, help support us a little bit for a cup of coffee, maybe a little bit more, a slice of apple pie and everything. Hey, come be part of the family and stuff like that. We got some great things going on in the Gilded with our patrons, and also too, man. Hey, rivals.com. Come hit us up. They're doing some big things. We're partnering up with them and doing some great things. Go ahead, George.
You gotta get into Rival. You got to go in there and beat the Bandito.
Beat the Bandito. But Beat the Bandito is starting out with Patreons. Come join the Patreon and be part of the Beat the Bandito contest and see where you stack up. Yep.
And so I put it right down here. It's patreon.com/Totally Some Titles. Again, Rich, I want to thank you for coming in tonight. I want to thank Jason for joining us. Special shout out to Coach who joined us earlier this evening. want to thank everybody who participated in these mock drafts. We could not do them without you. You are the reason why we are here. You are the reason why we did an hour-and-a-half show breaking down mock drafts. If you get into the Gilded chat, Gilded members always get the first opportunity to join these mock drafts. So I understand that, we're about 13 days away from Football Sunday. So we're going to be doing another mock draft next Monday night. If you want to get into those mock drafts, guarantee your spot, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Sleeper. I will get you into the Gilded chat to where you can join before an hour and a half before anybody else. Guarantees your spot, guarantees your spot to get in the draft. You can pick whatever selection you want to help get ready for your home draft, your home leagues, or any other leagues you're going to be doing. With that, I want to say thank you to everybody. Have a great night, and we will see you next week.